Hello my fellow weirdlings, it's Margot, and today I'm talking about a bit of modern folklore that's endured for generations, the mystery of the man from Taured. Some believe this mysterious man was an extraterrestrial, a time traveler, or a visitor from an alternate dimension. Others believe he was just a fraud. But is there any real mystery to this persistent tale? If you're ready to hear the true story, keep watching. You've probably heard this story before. It generally goes as follows. On a hot summer day in July of 1954, an unremarkably conventional-looking bearded Caucasian businessman arrived at the Haneda Airport in Tokyo, Japan. His primary spoken language was said to be French, though he purportedly spoke Japanese and other languages as well. The man possessed a legitimate-looking passport in a language that linguists weren't familiar with, from a country named Taured, which simply doesn't exist in our world. When asked to show the location of Taured on a map, the mysterious man pointed to the Principality of Andorra, on the border of France and Spain. He then became angry and confused, claiming his homeland of Taured had been at that location for over 1,000 years. He'd never heard of Andorra. The man showed documentation that he'd visited Japan, as well as other countries around the globe, multiple times before. He also possessed currency from several different European countries. The company he claimed to work for had never heard of him, nor had the hotel where he'd claimed to have a reservation. The business associates he'd stated he was there to meet with also had no idea who he was. Authorities locked the man in a hotel room while they tried to get to the bottom of things. The room was several floors up with no balcony, and there were 2 guards stationed outside of the only exit door. His documents and personal belongings were confiscated. When they later opened the door to the room, the man from Taured had vanished, never to be seen again. Perhaps even stranger still, all of the man's belongings, which had been in the possession of the authorities, had vanished as well. It's said that this intriguing mystery has never been solved. Over the decades that have followed this strange encounter, many theories have arisen as to the true identity of the man from Taured. The most commonly accepted theory was that the man was a secret agent, but others were convinced that the man was either a time traveler or from an alternate dimension where Taured really did exist in the place of Andorra. A less accepted theory was that the man from Taured was a visitor from outer space. I've even heard rumors that the mystery man had a taste for human flesh. Still, many others believe this story to be nothing more than an internet hoax or an urban legend. But what if I told you the mystery man's identity was never quite so mysterious after all? That he didn't disappear from a hotel room, and that he may not have even been traveling alone. In 1960, Japanese newspapers reported on the predicament of a man named John Allen Kucher Zegras, who'd been detained by Japanese authorities for an alleged forgery of documents. Judging from this news coverage and documentation of a July 1960 debate that took place in the British House of Commons, using Zegras's case to support the argument that passports are not very good security checks, John Zegras was quite certainly the man from Taured. According to these reports, 36-year-old Zegras arrived with his 30-year-old Korean wife at the Haneda Airport in Tokyo, Japan, on October 24, 1959. There, he presented a passport supposedly issued from the capital city Tamanrasset of the non-existent independent sovereign state of Taured. Zegras claimed Taured had a population of 2 million and was located somewhere south of the Sahara. The passport was written in a strange, supposedly nonsensical language, which is currently on your screen. However, news reports described the passport as an obvious fake, stating that it wasn't even the correct size of a legitimate passport. It was described as handmade, recognizable at a glance as fake, and the size of a weekly magazine. Still, Zegras claimed he'd used the fake passport to travel the world, even visiting Japan 3 times previously without getting caught. The Japanese embassy in Taipei, Taiwan, even reportedly issued him a visa on October 17th of the previous year. It's also been noted that Tamanrasset is the name of a province and city in Algeria, and Tuareg is the name of a group of people and languages in and around Algeria. so it's possible that Zegras claimed to have come from that region of the world, and something got lost in translation. A Japanese radio broadcast from December 1961 stated that Zegras hadn't only been using a fake passport, but had also been writing fraudulent checks. They reported that Zegras described himself as a naturalized Ethiopian who worked as an intelligence agent for Colonel Nasser. The only Colonel Nasser I could find from that time period was Gamal Abdel Nasser Hussein, who was serving as the second president of Egypt at that time. Zegras had also reportedly claimed to be an agent of both the American FBI and CIA. None of these claims were true. Zegras reportedly gave a detailed report of his proclaimed origin story, claiming to have been born in the U.S., moved to the U.K. through Czechoslovakia and Germany, and attended high school there. During World War II, he was a pilot for the Royal Air Force and was once captured by the Germans. After the war, he lived in Latin America. Later, he became a spy for the Americans in South Korea and served as a pilot in Thailand and Vietnam. And after that, he was assigned by the United Arab Republic with a mission and became a diplomat in Negros Habesh, a country lying close to Ethiopia. He arrived in Japan for a secret mission which included recruiting Japanese military volunteers for the United Arab Republic. He attempted to invoke his diplomatic immunity. Investigators contacted each of these countries and found all of Zegras' information to have been fabricated. The stamps in his passport were also determined to have been forged. Most of this information comes from one of the original investigators into this case, named Atsuyaki Sasa, who worked for the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department, Public Security Bureau, who later wrote about Zegras in his memoirs. Zegras was also said to speak 14 different languages, including Japanese, yet news articles mentioned the use of a translator in court. Japanese news articles from 1960 and 1961 fill in some other information, such as that Zegras and his wife had entered Japan from Taipei. According to these reports, Zegras, also referred to as a mystery foreigner, quickly ran out of money during his stay in Japan and started cashing fraudulent checks in the total amount of about 350,000 yen at various Tokyo banks. On August 10, 1960, John Zegras was sentenced to 1 year in prison by a Judge Yamagashi in Tokyo District Court for illegally entering Japan and cashing phony checks. Immediately after his sentencing, Zegras suddenly stood up, removed pieces of a broken glass bottle from his mouth, and began to slash his arms. As Zegras shouted, "I'm going to kill myself," 3 guards rushed to restrain him. He was taken to Kayabashi Hospital by ambulance. It was reported that the district prosecutor had difficulty with the fact that Zegras' true identity and nationality was unknown. The mystery of Zegras' true origins was not cleared up at trial. Further reports added that Zegras' wife, who had entered the country with her husband, had been deported back to her homeland of South Korea on her own passport. I couldn't find any further information about her. Additional articles stated that Zegras was eventually released from prison on time served and left Japan vowing to begin a new life in a new country. I'm thinking that would most likely include a new identity. Other reports mentioned that Zegras was actually deported to Hong Kong, China after his release, claiming that was his previous location before entering Japan. Nothing is known about the fate of the legendary man from Taured from that point forward. He could even still be alive, though he'd be about 98 years old today. So in many ways, I suppose the man from Taured is still shrouded in mystery, though still not quite as mysterious as popular lore may have led us to believe. I'm not sure if John Zegras was a con man, mentally ill, or just an adventurous mischief maker with a vivid imagination, but I have serious doubts that he was an alien, time traveler, tourist from an alternate dimension, or spy. But there are definitely those who still cling to those beliefs. The enigma of how this story became the heavily embellished legend it is today also remains a mystery. To me, the mystery of when and how this fairly well-documented event became an unsolved mystery in the public consciousness is actually the most intriguing aspect of this story. That's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this story and will come back for more. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and bring your friends, family, COVID pod, cult members, invisible friends, or enemies. And if you have any theories about the mysterious man from Taured, please share them in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching.